All right, guys. We're starting the second half of this on India, um, British imperialism in India. So I should have made your essential question for the first one. What was the impact of British imperialism in Africa? And this one is in India. So we're going. So we looked at what's happening in Africa and both the oppression that's happening due to European involvement in Africa, but also some of the resistance that happened in Africa. We see the same thing happening in India. So the British, especially, um, the British have take over India in a couple different ways, and then we see some resistance from India as well. Okay, all right. All right. During the age of imperialism from 1850 to 1914, Europeans dominated Africa and Asia. We talked about that earlier. So during this era, no nation could match the industrial, military, or colonial power of Britain. Britain was the most powerful. It has the most colonies around the world, and stuff like that. Okay, so no nation could match the industrial, military, or colonial power of Britain. They're able to do a lot there. Okay, all right. Britain had so many colonies that it was said that the sun never set on the British Empire. That they essentially it's kind of literally that that they had so many colonies that no matter where no matter where the sun was always shining on some part of the British Empire somewhere in the world. It was also kind of a metaphor that if the sun never sets on the British Empire, that it's like a metaphor that the British Empire will never end. Um, they so they took pride in that on all of these areas around the world that they controlled. Among all of Britain's colonies, the most important to them and the most valuable was India. Okay, and India is up here. This is the most valuable of the British colonies due to the resources that it has. So we're going to talk about how India became the brightest jewel in the crown, the most valuable colony that the British had of all these colonies they had in the entire world. Okay, so the British East India Company was formed to trade exotic Asian goods in Europe and in America. They uh, they make they trade all sorts of these Asian goods throughout. They're headquartered in India, but then they trade a kind of everywhere. And this is a private company. That's very important here. It's a private company. It's not directly controlled by the British government. Now they have a contract with the British government to do business in India and in other places in the world, and to trade um, kind of on behalf of the British government, but they are not an official part of the British government. So the East India Company set up set up trade posts in major port cities in India. Um, so they have these powerful, it's a powerful company creating these powerful trading posts. And by 1700, India's Mughal Empire was in decline. We learned about the Mughals a while ago. Um, and and they had small states that were ruled by a Maharaja that are formed. Okay, so they formed these small states ruled by a Maharaja um, instead of the large Mughal Empire that they had. So the Mughal Empire was really powerful for a long time. Now it's on the decline. And conflicts between Hindus and Muslims further weakened China. Remember, you had the Muslims that are in power, but the majority of the population is Hindu. That creates some serious conflict in India. Um, the East India Company, due to all of these weakenings of India, the East India Company gains more control of India. They're able to to control more parts of India, and a lot of that is actually due to due to military involvement. So believe it or not, they're not part of the British government, so they don't have an army of themselves, but they hire what are called sepoys, which will come into play later. They hire these Indian um, Indian men called sepoys to essentially make war for them and to and to go into to essentially help them control more parts of India and expand their trade. So the East India Company made huge profits creating plantations to harvest tea, coffee, cotton, and opium, all in India. Those are all extremely important, either cash crops or I guess these would all be considered cash crops in India that they're using. Not for sustenance, not for like food, but they're um, but they're used as luxury goods and sent around the world. Cotton, for fabrics, for textiles and things like that. So raw materials like cotton helped fuel Britain's industrial revolution. They were able to make textiles with this cotton, and that helped build Britain's industrial revolution. Opium was refined in India because they have this plant called the poppy plant, and it can be refined into opium. And then it was smuggled into China, illegally smuggled into China um, across the border, and um, and opium addiction helped the British gain access to Chinese trade there, getting the Chinese addicted to opium, and then kind of pushing their way into Chinese trade, which we'll go more into detail on that another day. The East India Company sold cheap British-made textiles to Indian people. So they get the cotton from India. They make the textiles usually in Britain, but then they sell these back to Indian people. It's like a ready-made market to sell their uh, inexpensive textiles to, right? So not only are these colonies essentially made, or not only do they provide resources, but they provide a huge market. And again, India has a huge population, so that makes a huge market for British goods. From 1750 to 1850, the British East India Company ruled most of India with little interference from Britain. So the British government didn't really get involved. The British East India Company pretty much did whatever they want. Again, they have the sepoys to protect them and to expand their power. So you see all that pink territory on the bottom left. That's controlled by the British East India Company. Again, a private company controls all this territory because they have enough money that they're able to hire these Indian natives to essentially expand their power. And then but you still have several Indian states, smaller Maharaja states, in order to that are um, uh, that are still there and kind of resisting British control. Um, so so they have all these different parts of India, and then so that's by I don't see the dates here. I thought I had dates on these, but slowly you start seeing British India, or well, when the British take over, they take over even more parts of India from there. So to protect their trade and territories, British officials hired Indian soldiers called sepoys. I talked about that to protect the trade and to protect the territory there and to help expand their territory. And by the 1850s, Indian resentment for the British was growing. Um, so they don't like this British East India Company controlling so much of their territory. They're they're getting more and more tired of the British control of India, or this private company's control of India. So in 1857, rumors spread that sepoy gun cartridges supplied by the British were greased, is what that should say, with pork and beef fat. Okay, now that may not seem like a problem to you, but to these Hindus and Muslims that were sepoys and working for the British East India Company, that's going to be a problem because the Muslims aren't allowed to have any contact with pork, and the beef fat for the Hindus there, that they believe, Hindus believe that cows are sacred, so they would not want to be involved in anything that involved killing a cow. So the beef fat and the pork fat become problems for these Muslim or Hindu for these Muslim or Hindu sepoys. So those rumors start spreading that the gun cartridges are being greased with this pork and beef fat, and Hindu and Muslim sepoys were outraged and they rebelled against the British. So in 1857, this rebellion starts. From the sepoys. The sepoys rebel against the British East India Company. So not the British government quite yet, but they rebel against the British East India Company that's controlling so much of India. And the Sepoy Mutiny lasted over 1 year. The British government had to send troops to help the British East India Company. So the British government then, that is getting directly involved at that point. And because the British government got involved, they sent their troops in. Now the British government is going to be more involved in India, and they're going to directly control India, not just through the British East India Company. So the sepoys were stopped. They were executed. The ones that rebelled were executed, and the Sepoy Mutiny was a turning point in Indian history. In 1858, the British government took control from the East India Company, and they ruled India directly. And this began called the British rule of of India. It's called the Raj, or the British Raj, and it lasted until 1947. So for almost 100 years, the British control India directly, not just through the British East India Company like they did up to 1857. So Queen Victoria assumed the title of Empress in India. The British government made important improvements in India, including railroads, telegraph and telephone lines, roads, canals, dams, bridges. They also built schools, hospitals, irrigation projects, and medical improvements. So there are some good things that come out of this. But once again, just like Africa, like we talked about in the last video, there's not going to be it's going to be mainly focused on helping out the British that are there and helping the British government make money. It's not going to be focused on helping the Indian people there. British rule hurt the native Indian economy. It further divided the social classes, and it increased hostility between Muslims and Hindus. And and the British emphasis on cash crop plantations led to food shortages and famine in India. There were 7 million Indians that died due to starvation just in 1876 alone. In the Bengal famine, the Bengal territory of India had a very bad famine, and I believe almost all of those that died due to starvation were in the Bengal territory in 1876. Going back over here, it further divided the social classes. Like we had talked about before, the Hinduism had the caste system pretty much from the beginning. However, it had not been as important for a while in Indian history. When the British take over, they use the caste system to their advantage to divide the social classes and cause hostility among the Indians, and essentially treat the rich and powerful Hindus the rich and powerful Indians, I should say, as better than the lower class Hindus, so that they could get the rich and powerful on their side while controlling the rest of the people, and not having to give equal rights to everyone. So this, again, this increases hostility between social classes, between Muslims and Hindus, and that becomes a whole other part. That's a picture of people starving to death in the Bengal famine in 1876. Because they're focused on cash crops, and they're not focused on actually making food for the people of India. So when a famine comes in and destroys the food that is there, they're not able to switch and actually save people's lives and make sure that people have food to eat. Tons of people die from food shortages and from famine. India was not the only European colony in Southeast Asia. Okay, there's the Dutch East India Company, again control the East Indies in the 1600s. The Dutch profited from rubber, tin, oil resources, and cash crop plantations there. In the 1840s, so we got the Dutch there in Southeast Asia, in the East Indies, which is now Indonesia. Uh, that's that that's that yellow region down here. Then in the 1840s, France seized control of Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia in the Indochina. So that's right here, this purple area, just this purple area right here. Okay. The French profited from rice plantations there. Here we go. And I guess that's it. I guess that's all I had for that one. Okay, so so that is kind of in South Asia, India, and in Southeast Asia. What you have going on there, you have a number of pieces of resistance here. Um, and then, but then, the British in this case, and the Dutch and the French in Southeast Asia are just too powerful, because of their industrialization. So the Industrial Revolution really makes a huge difference in the lives of people all over the world, because Europeans are able to come in and control them, because they have a more powerful military. So, all right, that's good for today. Thank you for listening. Make sure you turn in the notes that you took. You should have notes from Africa and India. So the last video and this one, all in the same document. So make sure you turn that in, and I will see y'all in the next class. Y'all have a good day.